Hello, I'm Robin Gibson, and this is the Harvard House Money Morsel. Welcome back. Thank you for joining us again. Don't forget to like and subscribe and click the bell so you get a notification of when we're releasing a new video. I'm sitting today with Michael Porter. Hello, Michael.
Good morning, Robin.
Welcome back. There's a lot of nothing going on and a lot of little things going on. So let's start with the big one. Trump lost in court.
Isn't it funny, Robin? I sort of reflected on that over the weekend, and if there's one thing that stood up in this country, it's the courts. And where would we have been without the courts pushing back on government and state capture and things like that? And there's a sort of irony in the fact that the courts are pushing back against Trump and things as well. I mean, maybe it just shows how important it is to have a robust legal system in place that really does protect and uphold the law.
Yes,
for everybody's sake.
Yes.
So I know that Trump is trying to stack the court with sort of his
cronies.
Well, I don't know if cronies are quite. I wasn't going to be quite as harsh as cronies, but Republicans or whatever the case is. But it's important, for that investor confidence.
Yeah.
Anyway, he got a bloody nose.
He did get a bloody nose, but he's come straight back and said he's going to put tariffs on everyone now. And then the question is there a lot of money that's going back from the fiscus to all these importers who had to pay these big tariffs?
Yeah, I'm not sure I want to do that paperwork. But,
exactly.
But it's unclear whether they're going to have to be refunded or not. That wasn't really made clear. But yes, a 10% sort of global tariff. I was just reading a little bit of analysis. I think it would slightly push up the overall rate of tariffs. If you just look at how much tariffs have been collected relative to the sort of share of imports, I think it's sort of sitting at 8 or 9%, which is probably a fair reflection of just where the overall tariff level sits after all these deals and things like that. So if you have a 10% global tariff, or I also thought I saw 15% at some stage, but it'll probably push up the overall level. But I don't think anybody's changing any forecast yet, just seeing how the dust settles,
Yes, yeah. And ultimately, I think I read somewhere that this doesn't change any of the trade tariffs that they had negotiated separate, like the one with Japan and Europe.
Yeah.
And
I don't think so, but those were also at 15% or something like that, but they were sort of higher than the sort of 10% in my understanding. So they were not as draconian as the sort of 30% level that he was proposing. So yes, I don't think those are affected. But your problem is so complicated. I mean, trying to do business with the US, you've got to get your rule book out.
Yes,
It's not simple, is it?
Yeah. Well, it'll be interesting to see. We've got our new ambassador just briefly arrived. Whether he's going to be accepted by Pretoria and where that goes should be quite interesting, won't it?
It certainly will, yeah. The shenanigans we've had, feels like we've had more ambassadors between the two countries in the last couple of years than in the last 50 years.
Yeah. Amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, Michael, let's bring it a little bit local. Obviously, we're coming into the last week of February, and that's budget week, isn't it? So
it is budget week, and I'm just realizing I've got a busy week in this budget week.
What's happening on that front? I mean, are we expecting anything?
Robin, there hasn't been a huge amount of speculation about the budget. I think the big one that we've talked about before is the opportunity for the government to roll back the sort of tax hikes that they've been talking about for the last 2 years. So so they've already said that they won't adjust the brackets, and that obviously they'll collect an extra, whatever it is, 16 or 17 billion rand of income tax from that. I think there's a good chance that actually gets rolled back and they do adjust brackets for inflation, maybe by not as much as they could have done. But these windfall taxes on commodities and things like that are providing an opportunity. And I think when you have the sort of GNU influence in that budget process, bond yields have come down, issuance has come down. I think there's going to be a lot of pressure to generally have a more growth-friendly budget,
Yes.
Not to be raising taxes and things like that, especially if you've got a few windfalls that are coming through that you didn't expect, even in November or this time last year,
Yes.
So I would be quite surprised if they did raise taxes. I think that a lot of things have aligned for the government and there's a bit of breathing room, but they still, so apart from the tax side, they still need to then show that fiscal restraint, cutting costs, reinvesting in infrastructure, some of those other basics. I think it'll be a pretty good news budget. We always sit here and say they can do more, but if you look at what happened in November with the medium-term budget, that was really a turning point. And if they build on that credibility, I think we're in for a good time.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So, Michael, I mean, we do have some nice credibility stuff, good windfall taxes, reforms maybe coming through, some reason to be optimistic, but there are a few threats on the ground, aren't there? I mean, there's foot and mouth, there's Tonga Hewlett, and then there's some of the industrial issues.
Yeah, Robin, yeah, foot and mouth. I mean, obviously in our part of the world, it's rife, and you've got friends that are farmers that are really, really taking strain and you say in ruin, but things are extremely dire. Tonga Hewlett is a huge one. Obviously, everybody thought that was going to be rescued. I mean, I was talking to some sugarcane farmers on Thursday, and they said to me that the 27th of February is the big day. Watch the news for the 27th of February. So let's see what comes out of that. But obviously they're trying to sort of rescue it. It's not just the Tonga Hewlett land as well, but it's also the mills that need to keep going, and the Sugar Association and everything like that. So, and obviously it employs a huge amount of people, the sugar industry. So yes, that's happening. And then Afrimat is a company that we like a lot. Just in their sort of pre-close update on Thursday, they were also just talking about this threat of deindustrialization, Robin. Last year the ferrochrome smelters closed because of the electricity tariffs, and I know then they've got to stay at execution and they've negotiated this lower tariff. But again, they need to negotiate a permanently workable solution by the end of this week. So we'll have to watch that quite closely. ArcelorMittal closing as well, or talking about it, or whether the IDC is going to buy them out. It's not great that some of these big sort of core foundational industries are not competitive. And we've talked for quite a long time about load shedding, and it's not really about, I mean, security of supply is sort of over. We've got supply. The cost of supply is a major, major issue. And these industries are just not competitive because Eskom has pushed the costs up. And now we're looking at another sort of 3 years of 8, 9, 10% cost increases after nurses plunder and things like that, So we really have to focus. I mean, the unbundling of Eskom, and we really need to focus on bringing down the cost of electricity in this country now, because some of these foundational industries and our big heavy industry is not competitive.
Yes, yeah. So it feels like almost a reverse from where we were many years ago, where it was the big story news was bad, but on the ground it was okay. Now it seems a little bit the big story is okay, but on the ground,
listen, Robert, I think you still have to put it in context of how much it contributes to GDP, and the consumer side is sort of more important, and rates are coming down and things like that. So, but at the margin, these things undermine. They do spill out. I mean, they support a lot of jobs. They support a lot of rural industries or rural towns and things like that, and it's just not great. So I think it's always dangerous to extrapolate one situation and paint a whole negative picture. But just at the margin, there are a couple of things that we could do going right that would make the wheel roll faster down the hill, as opposed to putting the brake on a little bit. That's maybe where I'm at.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, Michael, thanks for giving us that insight. We've all got our eyes on the cricket. It was great to see us absolutely destroy India yesterday. Let's hope the boys can take it all the way. Thank you for joining us. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.